Welcome back, everybody, to the live stream this evening. We're here at MedicareSchool.com to talk about some topics this evening concerning projected Social Security increases and Part B premiums for 2025. My name is Evan Cruz. I am a licensed sales agent here at MedicareSchool.com, here with the co-founder of Medicare School, Marvin Music. And we're here to talk about answer your questions this evening and talk about what's going on with Social Security next year in 2025. So we'll be happy to figure out what's going on with those and answer any questions you might need. Also, let us know where you're from, so we'll be able to take a look at everybody who's sending in questions from around the country, kind of get a feel for where everybody's at, and obviously be happy to answer any questions that you have during this live stream and anything that you may need to know. That's what we're here for, is your information resource. So go ahead, Marvin.
All right, very good. Well, let's just briefly talk about tonight's topic, and that is the Social Security increase in Part B premium. First off, the numbers I'm going to share with you are just projections. We are not confident of either one of these just yet, getting very close, but the way the cost of living adjustment works is actually tied to the Consumer Price Index, W, which is for urban wage earners and clerical workers. And so what Social Security does is, of course, they're calculating this index every month, but to determine what the cost of living adjustment will be for Social Security, they're going to look at the third quarter of 2023, and then if there's been an increase in that same index in 2024, whatever that difference percentage increase is will be the cost of living adjustment that will be applied to the new Social Security checks. So again, it's third quarter 2023 to third quarter this year. And so we'll be at the end of third quarter, at the end of this month, so very soon. But those that track this and do the projections right now are saying about a 2.6% increase is what they're expecting. A little lower than last year. Last year was 3.20. So we're expecting about a 2.6%. Again, we'll know that for sure here in just a couple more weeks. That means this, the average Social Security recipient is getting just a little above $1,900. That's average. I know there's some getting less, obviously some getting more, but if we apply that 2.6% increase, that means the average person will get an additional $50 in their Social Security benefit, of course, and they would see that in their first check in January. All right, so that's what we're expecting. Again, anxious to see the final number, but it should be probably pretty close on that. And then the other thing we want to talk about is the Medicare Part B premium. And again, folks, we don't know this for sure yet. These are just projections. This actually comes out from the Medicare trustee report. But what we're anticipating right now would be the Part B premium somewhere around $185 a month for 2025. Right now, that is $174.70, and so that'd be an increase of about $10.30. So $185 is the projection. Now, let me tell you how that's calculated. What happens is every year Medicare decides what they believe, and again, it's just a projection as to what they believe the cost of covering the average Medicare beneficiary will be for 2025. Now, this number they've been working on, they actually work on during the spring and summer. So that number certainly has been finalized, but they have not published it yet. So what they do is they take the billions and or really now probably trillions of dollars that it takes to cover everyone in Medicare, divide that by all the recipients, which this year about 70 million people, and they come up with a monthly amount. And what they're saying is they believe that's going to be somewhere around $740 a month to cover the average Medicare recipient. And so the average Medicare recipient has to pay 25% of that cost. And that's where that 185 comes from. It's not just plucked from the air. There really is a formula behind it. So again, the average recipient is going to pay, if it's 185, they're paying 25% of what it costs the government to cover them. And again, the Medicare budget covers the other 75%. However, when I say average, I keep saying that because it's actually tied, that number is actually tied to what we refer to as the modified adjusted gross income. Modified adjusted gross income. And so if I'm on Medicare in 2024, the government looked back at my income tax return in 2022. They always look back 2 years. And so they establish what we call thresholds for modified adjusted gross income. And that formula is line 11, which is your adjusted gross income, plus line 2A, which is your tax-exempt interest. And so they take line 11 plus line 2A, and that's the number that is then reported to Medicare to determine your Part B premium. And so this year, those thresholds for a single filer is $103,000 or less. As you know, a married couple filing a joint return is $206,000 or less. And so if we're below the thresholds, again, we pay the standard Part B premium. This year, $174.70. Next year, $185. Now, because we're projecting the premium to go up, so will the thresholds. And again, projections are right now a single filer that is at $105,000 or less, or a married couple that would be at $210,000 or less would pay than $185. If we're above the thresholds, then we have additional charges. Those are called IRMAs. They're surcharges that are added to our Part B premium as well as Part D premium if we're considered to be high income. And so there's actually 5 different brackets of income that are above those thresholds I mentioned. So our IRMA would vary depending upon how high it's going to be, anywhere from that, if it's a couple, 210 up to, $750,000. And so the point is, some people are going to pay more than that base premium, just depending upon where the IRMAs land in for 2025. All right, so those, again, projections. We should know the exact numbers for Part B within about a month, and then just a couple weeks, of course, for the cost of living adjustment.
Yeah.
All right, so hopefully that's helpful. If you have any further questions about that particular subject, of course, you can put those in the chat, and we'd be delighted to answer those.
For sure. Yeah. I did have a question that I usually get all the time too with people on the phone, which asked me about a concern or a scare that a lot of people have, which is the stability of Social Security moving forward. And they say they're very afraid that they're going to lose it, that it's going to get taken away. My personal experience in talking to the masses of people who are on Medicare or going on to Medicare and Social Security is there are a significant number of people who their sole income is Social Security, and they don't have the 4-pronged approach of having the pensions and having the investments and to have that taken away would be not only detrimental, but I would consider impossible for that to happen. So the chances of it disappearing, I think, are extremely slim. So obviously, I'll let you expound on that. But there was a question here from a particular individual. Hi, I'm Glenn from Maryland, 61 years old, not planning to retire until 67. Is Social Security stable enough for me to wait?
Well, I am very close to Medicare eligibility here in just a little bit of a year, and obviously already ready for Social Security, but I am definitely going to wait. In fact, I'm going to wait till 70, hopefully. That's certainly my desire. So I would say to Glenn, I think it's fine to, and I'm going to tell you why. Because as Evan was saying, there are certain people that this is their only income. And so it would be a definite blow to about anywhere from 20 to 30% of the population that lives on Social Security alone. And so I just don't think our government really is going to allow that to happen. And so I think what they're going to do, probably last minute, they're going to make some adjustments to the stability of the trust fund by raising the maximum amount that's taxable for Social Security. This year, that's $168,000. So once we've reached $168,000, we don't pay any more money. I think it's $168,600, but we don't pay any more Social Security taxes on that money. So that would be a very quick fix, is to raise that amount up, a couple $100,000, or maybe even unlimited. I don't think they'll go that high, but that's a very easy fix. Those who make that kind of money would be disappointed for sure, but that's something they can do. I think also what they will probably do is, not my generation, but your generation, probably going to see that full retirement age pushed out to maybe even 70, from 67 to 70. And so I think they'll make some adjustments to solidify the trust funds for sure. We know that there is enough money in there right now to about 2033, 2034. And then after that, we know there's at least 80 cents of every dollar that can be paid. That's not enough. That people need to get 100%. Right. And so I do believe that Congress will take action to firm that up. Okay, and I think we'll see that. It's going to, I think, probably sometime here in the next couple of years, I believe they'll make those adjustments. Yeah. So, Glenn, I'd say wait. I'm definitely going to, and wait for retirement age 67, or wait beyond that and grow that additional for 24%.
Right. And I always tell people the same thing too. When to take Social Security is a very personal decision, obviously, that everyone needs to make. And we don't have an expiration date. We don't know a clock. We know when everybody's going to pass away. And if we knew that number, obviously, we could tell you to the day when you should take your Social Security. But I always tell people, if you're in a situation where you're doing just fine and don't really need the money, it's not going to make a difference on your day-to-day life. And it doesn't hurt to defer, let it grow, be worth more. But if you're in a situation where you go, what, that money could make a big difference on my day-to-day life. I could take more vacations, live the life I want to live. doesn't hurt to consider taking it. It came down
Exactly.
to that, but,
Yeah. I think another thing people need to look at longevity of life for sure. But one of the reasons I'm going to wait is because my wife has very little Social Security of her own, and so if I wait to age 70, I've grown that account, and of course she'd be entitled to that, when I died. And so you can maybe, if you don't live to break even enough to benefit from deferring, if your spouse is younger, probably will live longer. In fact, it's interesting. You have a 95% of all Social Security survivor benefits today is going to women, widows. So I think we need to bring that into our thinking and planning as well.
right, absolutely. Yeah.
All righty, let's take some questions.
Yeah, let's see what else we have here. That was a pretty basic one here too. Just for some people who are curious here, Rose here had asked the question, can I get Part D or do I also have to get a supplement plan at the
Okay,
same
very
time?
good. Well, Rose, if you are going to go on Medicare, I definitely would get a Part D plan. If you're still working and the employer has 20 people on the payroll or more, you don't have to do anything with Medicare. But if you're going to go on Medicare, I'd get a Part D plan, regardless if you take any medications or not. I've had plenty of people who were healthy as they can be when they started Medicare, and 6 months in or 1 year later, they're being treated for cancer. In fact, 1 million people this year will be diagnosed with cancer that are on Medicare. Yeah, the average cancer age right now is 66. And so if you were to get diagnosed with cancer and needed chemotherapy, or you needed some kind of a medication, oral medication for your cancer treatment, you'd be very grateful that you had a prescription drug plan. Especially next year, because the maximum cap out of pocket is going to be $2,000 for all Part D plans. So you want to get a Part D plan for sure. And so as far as the supplemental plan goes, most of you who are members of our kind of audience, they know that we believe that supplemental plans are definitely the best medical coverage as long as people can afford a premium. So I would encourage you to get A and B and get a supplemental plan, either G plan or an N plan, because we find that most people that get supplemental plans are very, very pleased with that, especially if they have a health problem.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. Let's see.
I see one up there about Kelly Hall. Currently, I see. Of course, you can pick them.
Yeah, let's see if I get down there to that one. Boy, they are filling in fast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these here. And just kind of going along with what you said, there was one lady up here I'd seen a question about. This lady here, or it's from Bob here, sorry, saying he's a snowbird living in Washington and Arizona during the year. Is likely a supplemental plan obviously be better than an Advantage plan for him?
I think so, because it just gives you a lot more flexibility. If you take an Advantage plan, you're going to be in a network, either an HMO or PPO network. And so with networks come restrictions, come limitations. And so I think you have a much broader coverage option if you will take A and B with the supplemental plan, because then you never deal with the network. You can go to any provider, any hospital, any doctor, any specialist. As long as they take Medicare, they will take your supplemental plan as well. Mm-hmm. So if I was traveling, I definitely would be doing that.
Yep. Were you familiar, I'm sure you are, with the you earned it, you keep it? Mm-hmm. Have you talked much about that yet, as far as the changes in Congress for the Social Security reducing or eliminating taxation on Social Security?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know what's going on. I don't know that that's fully passed yet.
Oh, okay.
But if it has, that's news to me. But I know that there's has been some legislative talk about making Social Security no longer, at least, subject to federal income taxes. So I hope they do that.
Yeah.
I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah. I'll look at that a little more. I think that was in Congress in January. I think it was supposed to pass for next year, but I'll have to look into that for sure, because that's something that somebody was asking me about the other day. So I will have to make sure on that one.
Good question from Mike here.
Okay.
Yep, there you go. Yes, if you're $1 over the threshold, you're treated the same as someone $20K over the threshold. Is that the question mark? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No sliding scale within the brackets.
And that's exactly right. Yeah, they establish it. In fact, right now, let's give you an example. Right now, the first level of IRMA for a married couple is $206,000 up to $258,000. So you're right. If you're over $1 or anywhere within the range, you're going to pay that IRMA. They will not give you an adjustment because you're that close. I've actually seen that happen before. Yeah, someone, literally within $20 at the threshold, you'll pay the full IRMA.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I tell people a lot of times too when they're not quite sure, because it's hard to know when you're projecting income for the next year when it comes to IRMAs. Some people don't know exactly how much they're going to make. They know it's going to be close, but I always tell people, whenever it comes to applying for an IRMA appeal, you can always basically be prepared just in case you were miscalculated when they look back. You're gonna owe the amount that you would have had to pay to the next year if they look back and you were being incorrect about your assessment. But you can't go back and ask for that money back in the future. They're not going to give that money back to you. But at the very least, if you can make a prediction based on your best educated guess, if you end up having to pay some of the differences from your miscalculation, so be it. But you can't ask for the money back if in case you make the mistake. So I always figure if it's going to be close, it's always worth it to appeal, but be prepared just in case.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it comes down to that. Let's see here. Quite a bit there. There's a pretty good one here. Actually, I talked to a guy with TRICARE today. There we go. It's from Linda. Actually says, do I need Part D if I have TRICARE?
Okay, and you do not, Linda. If you have TRICARE or you actually get your scripts through the VA or through the federal government plan, FEHB, those are all considered credible coverage plans, and a Part D plan is not necessary. So TRICARE is going to cover your meds, and it actually will cover them quite well. So it's equivalent to a Part D plan. So great insurance, and Linda, if you get it through you or your spouse, whoever, you get the TRICARE benefits. Thank you for serving our country.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Retired military.
I like this one here, actually. This is from Carol. It says policy premiums for Part D will not count towards $2,000 out of pocket when it comes to the Part D drug plan. So am I better off with a less expensive plan, even though my med costs may cost more?
Okay, Carol, you are right in that the only thing that's going to count towards the 2,000 will be your out-of-pocket spending, and actually sometimes people get assistance from state health pharmaceutical assistance, and that can at times count towards the 2,000 as well. So it's your out-of-pocket, and sometimes if you're on a state health assistance plan, some of those funds will count. So premiums do not. So that your question about better off with a less expensive plan, I wouldn't do that. What I would do is you want to pick a plan based upon the medications that you're taking. So you can use our site, you can use Medicare.gov, but when you put your meds in, let that system actually look at all the plans, because it's going to look at not just the premium of the plan, but also what your out-of-pocket expenses will be. So I wouldn't do that. I'd let the system that you use pick the plan, because it's going to give you the best protection.
Right.
So usually a cheaper plan is going to have more quicker money out of pocket than vice versa. Usually when we have a higher premium plan, it's because it has a better formulary. And so let a system pick it out. Don't make the decision based upon premium only. Now, hey, if I take no meds, I definitely would take the lowest cost plan I could get. It's fine. You can switch them every year anyways. But if you're taking expensive meds, I wouldn't take the cheapest plan.
And all the drug plans this year in 2025, if I'm correct in my assessment on this as well, are going to be allowing people to have payment plans because of the max out of pocket being 2,000, and people could get hit with that a lot sooner. This being spread out throughout the year. Do you know how that works exactly and how that breaks down?
Yeah, I do. What they're going to do is, number one, you have to enroll into that. And you can enroll at the beginning of the year, you can enroll anytime throughout the year, and so that's what they're going to do. They're going to take that full $2,000 and they'll spread that out. So if I enroll in that earlier, I'll get more benefit from that, because it's going to be smaller monthly payment. But they can enroll. It's kind of a smoothing way to make sure that people that do have expensive meds are not going to have to come out of pocket $2,000 their first fill.
Right.
They'll spread those payments out.
Yep.
So they'll have options to enroll in that program.
Good. And that's for all drug plans, too.
Exactly right.
Yep. Awesome. That's great. Here's another great one here from David. It says, if a spouse qualifies for spousal benefits, do they get that and their full benefit?
Yeah. No. Whenever you're taking any form of Social Security, you're only going to be able to take one type of benefit. And so the only reason that a person today would be taking spousal is if, number one, their spouse is already taking benefits, and it means that the 50% of their spousal is greater than 100% of their own account. Because today when we file for Social Security, it's called the deeming provision. So we file and we have to take the greatest amount that's available for us. And so it's not going to be both. It's going to be the greater of the two. Now we'll have sometimes people that will take their own benefit, and their spouse is not yet taking. So once their spouse takes, and then if that 50% is greater, then they'll be able to switch from their own retirement to that spousal benefit. But it's not both at all.
And so let's say someone is taking from their spousal and it's 50% because it's greater than their original, then that spouse were to pass away, becomes survivor benefit, become the full benefit. at
Exactly
that
right.
point.
They would get 100% whatever that spouse was eligible for at the time they passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
Information on that.
Yeah, and of course, that also applies if you take any kind of Social Security benefit, you're penalized if you take it before your own full retirement age.
Right.
So even though we would be eligible for 100% spousal, if we took before 67, we'll say, then we would have a reduction in that benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else we got? Yeah, if y'all want to put
Daniel,
in,
why don't you pick them?
yeah, and put some more in there. Where we're from too. Not seeing a lot of people putting in necessarily their state and their city where they're from, but if you want to plug that in there too, be happy to see where everybody is watching in from.
Yeah. And so, Margie, as far as appealing in IRMA, you can. The form that you use is called an SS-44. What happens is if you have a life-changing event, and that would be work stoppage, work reduction, death, divorce, an annulment of a marriage, life-changing event, there's actually 8 of those, and they're all listed on the SS-44 form. And so what you're doing in the appeal is, let's say I'm on Medicare 2024, they're looking back at 2022, and if I've had a life-changing event either in 2023 or 2024, then I can appeal. I can tell them, hey, I've had this life-changing event, and that life-changing event has affected my income, and it's dropped. So if yours moved down 70,000, then it could possibly eliminate the IRMA, or at least could move the IRMA level down some. So you definitely want to appeal that. And when you fill that paperwork out, Margie, you're going to send that to your local Social Security office. So you can just Google wherever your area is, local Social Security office, and you can fax it in, mail it in, or drop it off, and they will do a reconsideration. And I've never seen an appeal lost, ever. Okay, I've had people that I didn't think they would even win their appeal, but they did. So take the time to do that. It's definitely worth your money.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that life-changing event can be used for 2 years. Since you're always looking back 2 years, you can use it 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one there from Janice says, my folks have a Medigap Legacy C supplement plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the cost is through the roof. Why is their supplement more than what is discussed in classes here for F, G, or N?
Yeah, well, Janice, the reason is because in all states, supplemental plans can go up. And so, because they're in the C plan, which meant they started Medicare before 1/1/2020, that group that they're in is probably older. The group that they're in is probably shrinking in size. And so that's why you're seeing some very large price increases. That's why we tell people if they can qualify to be able to switch a plan. In some states, you only have to qualify medically. You actually can switch during what they call a birthday rule. And so if they can get off that C plan and move to something else, which would probably be, the 3 that you mentioned there, then it's well worth your time to do it. If their health is bad, they're probably not going to be able to go to G or an N, but depending on where you live, they may be able to move to an F plan, possibly. So, right now, I don't know how old your folks are, but that's an older plan. That's all there is to it, and they just continue to shrink and shrink and shrink. And when people stay in those policies, there's not a lot of holders in the policy, so those premiums are not spread out to as many people, and that's what causes the rates to be unstable. I'm sorry to hear that, Janice. That's a bummer. Call us though, and if it's something that we can help you with, we'd be delighted to do so.
Yeah, for sure. It looks like Ann Colquitt here says, what do I have to choose if I am keeping my work benefits? I turned 65 in December. I was told I have to choose the hospital plan so I don't have the pre-existing challenges when I actually retire.
Yeah, and that's not accurate. I would tell you that it is fine to go ahead and enroll in the hospital Part A only, as long as you don't have an HSA, health savings account. Because if you're still working and you want to contribute to an HSA, then you do not want to enroll into A or B, and you will not be penalized. I know people hear that all the time. But as long as you or your spouse has paid into the Medicare tax system for at least 10 years, 40 quarters, most people have 30 years paid in. As long as we get that Medicare A at zero premium because of 40 quarters, you can take A at any time you want. There's not going to be any penalties whatsoever. And so when you say about turning 65 in December, again, if your group plan has 20 employees on the payroll or more, you don't have to do anything at all. Don't have to do A, don't have to do B. Now, if you don't have an HSA, it is fine to do A. In fact, I recommend it to do A only. And in that situation, your group plan at work is still going to pay first, and Medicare A is going to pay second. And in the second payer position, A will not pay any deductibles, will not pay copays, but it will pay coinsurance. And so if you had a claim where your group plan left you responsible for some coinsurance, Medicare could actually help pay some of the bills. So I like A only, unless you have an HSA. HSAs wouldn't do A, wouldn't do B, and you will not be penalized as long as A is free.
Actually, I had a question for you myself, actually. So I had a client who had a specific situation where they're continuing to work, Medicare eligible, and it was obviously going to be a situation where they had them and two other people in the company. So it wasn't considered creditable coverage as far as that. However, he still needed to cover his spouse, who was under, and his disabled child, who was in a long-term care facility, and it was covering a exorbitant amount of money.
Yep.
It was incredible how much his insurance was covering.
Right.
So obviously he would never want to drop that. It would
right.
just be absolutely detrimental to drop it. So the situation, and he was aware now, and he said he had talked to other people, and he never ever was given the term creditable coverage. He didn't know it, no one ever mentioned that to him. He said, wow, so you're telling me that if I go in a situation where something major happens and I go to the hospital, the insurance company could come back and say that, I'm over 65 and they're not going to cover me.
That's exactly right.
Exactly. So, so the question that he had then was because in most places, employer coverage is considered first payer over Medicare if it's active employer coverage, correct?
Yeah, 20 or more in the group. That's
Exactly. So if it's under 20 employees, this is the question I'm coming to, and they have Medicare and they have this private, almost private. It's
right.
limited group insurance that's not considered credible. Who's first payer in that situation?
Medicare will be.
Medicare.
Yeah, when we're still working, the size of the employee payroll basically decides who pays first. 19 or less, Medicare takes the first payer position. Company pays second. 20 or more, Medicare is going to be second, and the group plan is going to be first.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I would do in his situation, depending upon his deductible or what the cost of the plan, I would probably go ahead and keep that for my spouse. I mean, he does not have to disenroll from the plan, but since he's going to be enrolled in Medicare, if he has a high deductible and he has some health problems, I'd still get a supplemental plan in that situation. So when he goes to the doctor, he's using A and B, he's using a sup card, but when his spouse and his disabled child go to the doctor or hospital, they're going to use the group plan. That's the way I'd handle it.
So when he goes to the hospital, which cards do you think he should be handing to the doctor in the hospital?
Well, if he enrolls in Medicare, we got A and B, and then if he takes the SUP, I'd give him that, and I'd give him the group plan as well.
Just give it to him all.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, they'll coordinate those benefits.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, but I do know for sure that Medicare is going to pay first, supplemental plan will pay second, and then group plan would pay third.
If it's non-creditable.
Exactly right.
Exactly right. Nice. Okay. Excellent. Yep. Cheryl looks like Cheryl had a question here. Does the Social Security increase for effect in 2025 increase the estimated Social Security benefit for those not receiving their benefits yet?
Yes, it does. It does. Because when they do calculate your benefits, they will consider that let's say it is 2.6% increase in when they calculate your top 35 years of earnings. So yes, everyone will benefit. Now if someone is 55, they're not going to benefit from that. But once we reach 60, then anytime there's going to be a cost of living adjustment, that will be affected in our future calculation when they decide what we're going to get when we take, for sure. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So you will benefit from that.
All right. Looks like Jim has a question here too. So staying on the employer plan with the drug cost covered, does drug cost is $60,000 per year? Am I being foolish for thinking it is best for now?
Okay.
So
I certainly, number one, I don't fully understand the question.
well, it looks like his employer plan is covering the extremely high cost of his meds as it is right now. So I think he's asking, should he stay on his employer coverage because it's covering the medication so well, or should he go on to Medicare?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, if they're covering it like, full cost, then, yeah, you don't have to do anything. I mean, if you're still working, group is 20 or more, you're not obligated to take a Part D plan at all. Your employer plan will be considered credible coverage. So I don't think you're being foolish. I mean, I still don't quite understand the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think how I would answer that too, I think is, as, the broker side talking about that too, is that with the new cap and everything, with the $2,000 cap and everything, it depends on what his premiums are. I mean, it depends on how much he's paying for his group coverage overall. If that calculates through with the cost of the medications being, $2,000 cap versus being completely covered with the employer coverage, it could work out to be in your favor with Medicare. It's just going to depend ultimately, on how much you're paying for your premiums and what your deductibles are, and if Medicare is superior, even with the higher, maxed out $2,000 cost versus paying nothing with the employer, it could work out to be better. Just there's a few other pieces to that puzzle.
Yeah, that's
that
what I'm
you
saying.
gotta know first.
I wouldn't tell you you're being foolish because I don't know enough. I don't know,
Right.
yeah, what size the group is. Don't know, what your premiums are on the group plan. If you want to give us some more information, but it sounds like you got a good group plan. If they're paying that much for your medications, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Carol looks like has a question here. Policy premiums for Part D will not count towards the $2,000 premium.
We already seen that
Oh,
one.
I think we talked about Carol. Yep, we answered that one already.
All right, let's go simple.
Okay.
Yeah, what is the G plan?
All right. Well, the G plan is one of the 10 supplemental plans that are on the market right now. And it's the one that, for anyone that is starting Medicare after 1/1/2020, it's the most comprehensive coverage available. And it covers all the Medicare gaps. There's 6 total Medicare gaps. G covers 5 of the 6 gaps. So the one gap Medicare G does not cover will be your Medicare B deductible. And Danny, that this year is $240. So the first $240 of any medical bills coming through the B side of Medicare would be your responsibility. And after that annual deductible is met, then your G plan would cover all the other gaps. So it's almost full coverage. When I go on Medicare, which is a little over a year, I'm going to go with the G plan. That fits my style. It fits my thinking. I like to have as much coverage as possible. There are some people today that are also getting N plans, which also is a good option, especially in some states where there's a big difference between the premiums of the G and the N. The N plan covers everything but the B deductible and excess charges, which are rare, but if they do occur, N will not cover excess, and then you have some co-payments on N. So G plan is, I think, a wonderful option, and there's some people, though, that want to save a little bit of money, and those people are typically going with an N plan today. What, on average, about $40 a month or so. Some states, $100.
Right.
But in most places, about $40 a month on the N plan. Okay. So it's a supplemental plan, filling in the gaps, 5 of the 6, so almost full coverage.
Right. This next one here, which I believe I actually recognize this particular individual. This might be Elizabeth, actually one of my clients. What do you think of the indemnity plans?
Well, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah. It's very near and dear to me, actually, when I talk about these particular things, too, when it comes to the being on an Advantage specifically. There are certain gaps and things that are left over in the Advantage. The Advantage obviously do their part when it comes to replacing some of the costs in original Medicare, but there are some unmanageable copays, some things you don't want to be stuck with when it comes to going to the hospital or calling an ambulance or going to the emergency room. That you get a bill for $2,000. Some people just can't afford that. Most of us can't afford that just out of nowhere. These copay protection plans do a really good job when it comes to the peace of mind of knowing that if you're not feeling well, you call an ambulance, they take you to the hospital, you end up in the emergency room, and you get admitted for the full amount of days with the you're having co-pays through your Advantage plan. They're going to write you a check within 48 hours. Do what you got to do. That's what my insurance is for. Don't hesitate to call an ambulance. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're worried about costs when it could save your life. And that's the whole point of a copay protection plan and the indemnity plans. Specifically, that would be like a hospital indemnity, helping you out, filling you in that particular gap. There's a lot of other things that are important too. Cancer riders, for just specifically in your family, if you have a history of cancer or heart attack or stroke, with critical illness type of policies. Specifically, people also on supplement policies, they can have these plans too. Do they need them? No, not necessarily when it comes to coverage. But there's a lot of other costs associated, with heart attack and stroke and cancer. I mean, you got family you got to fly out, you got facilities you got to go to, you got things you got to get covered, time off. There's a lot of other costs, and these particular policies can help you when it comes to having that additional cash to take care of you. And they usually are very, very low costs. They're very easy to handle that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think people that do decide to get a Medicare Advantage plan, if they're not comfortable with the risk with the max out of pocket, if they don't have the 5,000 or 7,000 or 3,000, whatever it is, that will be the max for the year, I think it's a good fit. For what, $25, $30 a month or so,
Yeah.
you can get an indemnity plan. And I'm with you. I think when it comes to supplemental plans, you don't need it for the health insurance, but you could use that money because it's indemnity means it pays you direct. It's not going to be paid to the insurance company, provider. It's going to be paid to you. You can use that money for whatever you want to.
Right.
So I think they're fine if it's in someone's budget. Do I think they have to have it? No. If I have a supplemental plan, no. But a lot of people like that additional insurance in case they wanted some cash money to use on loss of income. There's a variety of ways in which that would be helpful.
Right.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I think they're fine. We don't want people to be insurance poor, for sure. We want you to have the adequate coverage, appropriate coverage for your risk tolerance and for your situation.
Right. Because, I mean, somebody can typically afford $25 a month, but they can't afford a $2,000 bill going to the doctor or going to the hospital. Right. And that's what I always tell everybody I talk to. Like I said, I never, ever want you to hesitate to call an ambulance because you're afraid of what it's going to cost. And if it costs you your life, it's just not worth it. So that's really what's great about those. It's a peace of mind thing with those two. Yeah. Work getting me enrolled. Yeah,
All right.
Corey is a wonderful agent who works here. Ton of experience, a wealth
Yeah.
of experience.
Yeah.
So,
Corey's a pro.
yep, he really is. He actually worked with indemnity plans for quite a long time as well too. So he actually knows quite a bit about that.
I think we're froze up on our end. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good.
Okay. Very good.
Oh, kind of freezing up there. Okay. Let's see here.
All right. Do you prefer it is? Do you prefer an HMO Advantage plan or a Medicare Advantage PPO plan? I won't qualify for supplemental plans. So if it were me, I would go with a PPO if there was a good one in my market because I like the flexibility of having more providers available. There's always more providers on a PPO than an HMO.
Right.
And then also, if I had to go out on my network, I can do so. And so I like the flexibility. I am not saying for a second HMOs are bad. Sometimes HMOs are better fit as long as we can get doctors covered, hospitals covered. I know they're a little bit more attractive financially, HMOs versus PPO. But if I lay the two side by side, I like my options better on the PPO for those reasons. Yeah, I may have a higher max out of pocket, but at least I can go to any provider that takes Medicare on that PPO plan. So I like that.
Yeah. If I'm putting people in plans too, I mean, I'm putting them in a plan that I'd be putting myself in that situation. And if I'm in that situation where an Advantage plan makes sense, then yeah, I'm avoiding HMOs as much as I can. In some situations, some states, in some areas, sure, it might make sense. But for the most part, yeah, having the freedom and flexibility. And typically I've seen fewer referrals, fewer pre-authorizations, fewer issues when it comes to the restrictions that you have on that individual in a PPO. So you see that a lot better.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, another individual here. If a person loses group coverage and wants a drug plan, can the effective date be advanced or does it have to be the first of the following month?
Okay. All right. Well, can the effective date be advanced? Yeah. Well, if I enroll in a drug plan today, September the 4th, that plan would go in effect October 1st. So drug plans always begin on the first day of the month. Now, depending on when you come into Medicare, you actually can put that off about 3 months if you'd like to, but it's usually going to start the very next month. But when you're asking, can the effective date be advanced? So I guess she's saying beyond 1 month? Is that how you're Okay, yeah. If you're asking, can it be retroactive? Can it be backdated? And the answer to that is no. Medicare, there's only one instance that Medicare backdates anything, and that's getting real in the weeds, so I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But they are not going to backdate anything but the A date.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, I was just looking at that one. Yep, from Bob there. I'm turning 65 in December and can apply for Medicare now. Should I apply for A and B now and then buy a supplemental plan later? How about Part D?
Yeah, I would not, Bob. If I were you, I'd make all my decisions now because you can apply in some states actually 6 months in advance, but usually around 3 months is the perfect timing. So you're within that window where apply for your A and B and make your decision about what's going to be the best supplemental plan for you, G or N, whatever the carrier is going to be, and then enroll in the best drug plan for sure. Now, what's going to happen on your drug plan is that you're going to be on a drug plan just for 1 month. So I would select a plan that is good for that 1 month, and you may have to switch that for the plan in 2025. Okay. What we like to do is to go ahead and pick out a plan that we're thinking about just 1 month this year, and then have the same plan roll over into 2025. That's really the easiest way to do that. But the new plans for 2025 are not out yet, so we're not exactly sure what they're going to look like yet. But Bob, I'd do it all right now, because that way when you get off the work plan, your transition to Medicare A and B starts, supplemental starts, and your drug plan all December 1.
I have a question for you then along that line. So let's just say someone has a situation just like his. They're turning 65 in December, and they're on a few different higher costing medications. That a particular drug plan might say they would recommend a $100 drug plan for 25. Obviously, it's going to be different, or 24 rather. I'm sorry, for the last month. It's going to be different 25, obviously, with the changes in formulary, and we're looking at 12 months versus 1, and a whole bunch of factors. But let's just say that they go, oh, I have a 90-day supply of medications that I'm filled up. I don't need anything. I don't need any medications. Should they still get a drug plan for that 1 month, or should they just go ahead and pick a new one for January?
Yeah,
Skip that 1 month?
well, they certainly could get by with it, but something could happen during that month. You know, that's good. I've seen everything. So I'd probably go ahead and just get a very low-cost drug plan for 1 month just to be on the safe side. And I think it's good if you have carryover. They don't have to do it. And if they want to take the risk of not having a plan for 30 days because they have enough meds, go for it.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of people do that. So you just never know what could happen in 1 month.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, so for a few dollars, a drug plan that costs 50 cents, or a drug plan that costs $5 or whatever, I'd probably play it safe if it were
Just
me.
to have something,
I
just in
would.
case. Yeah, pick up an antibiotic. Who knows?
Yeah,
People
exactly
get
right.
sick
You
in
never know.
December all the time. You never know what you might need.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Yeah, from Stu. I was looking at next. Yep. Have supplemental plan. Have supplemental plan for A, B, and D plan F, and now over $500 a month, $6,000 a year for us too. Mid-70s, never been hospitalized. Still the best decision.
I don't think so, Sue Ann. What I would do is I would get off of definitely get off the F plan, because that thing is just going to continue to go up much faster, quicker, and more increases than a G or an N would. So, Sue Ann, if you're healthy, go through underwriting, and we'd be happy to help. In fact, you see the 800 number there. Just call us and our agents, and you can change that plan. That plan F can be changed at any time. Supplemental plans are not tied to the Medicare open enrollment. So call in now, and you could, as long as you get through medical underwriting, you could start a new plan effective October 1. Start saving that money. And your health could change, so the sooner, really, the better. We'll have to ask you some health questions, check your meds, but it sounds like you're in great health, so I think making that switch would be very easy to do.
Right.
And probably time with us on the phone, we can do that in probably 20 minutes, maybe 30. And could take care of both of you. So please call in. In fact, those of you that want immediate assistance, our switchboard's still open right now. We're open 7 to 7 Central Time, Monday to Thursday, and then on Friday, 7 to 6. So the switchboard's open. There's agents that will be available to help you through that whole process, Sue.
I don't know if you mentioned this too. What was the Part B deductible for 25? Do we know that yet?
We do. In fact, I've been saying it wrong because they put out the number a couple months ago. But because of the Part D changes and all the bids that came in from the Part D insurance companies, it bumped to $590.
Part B's premium?
Oh, I thought you said Part D.
Part B. Part B. As in Bravo.
My bad. I thought you said drug plans.
I was like, whoa!
No, we do not know the Part B deductible. My bad.
Gotcha.
I thought you said D.
D,
Sorry.
yes.
So
But
the
yeah,
Part
but
D
still,
deductible is
go ahead.
$590.
Right, up from 545. So
Yeah.
up a
Yeah.
little bit there.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know if they'd released that yet for the Part B premium, and what we know, because it was $226 last year, so it went up
Yeah.
about $14 this year.
Right.
So
Yeah, we're still waiting. I think it comes out in October.
okay, we'll see what that is. All right, so for looks like Eileen, yeah, Isaacson. You mentioned G and N for additional insurance. I just want to be clear, are they Medicare Advantage, or do Advantage and Supplemental use the same jargon?
No, yeah, G and N plans are Medicare supplemental plans. They're also called Medigap policies. What happens when someone does a G or an N, what they're doing is they've made the decision to stay in traditional Medicare A and B, which pays first, and then the G and N, being supplemental plans, are going to fill in some of the gaps that Medicare did not cover. G covers 5 of 6, N covers 4 of the 6 gaps. And so Medicare Advantage plans are actually called C plans. So when we think about the different parts of Medicare, A, B, C, and D, A is inpatient, B is outpatient, C are Advantage plans, and D are drug plans. So a little bit of the same jargon, but definitely G and N plans are not Medicare Advantage plans.
Right.
Good question.
All right, yeah. Rosalie here asking, I'm married, filing single. Will the IRMA be based on my own income or joint income with my husband?
Okay, so what you're saying is you're married and you all file a separate return. And so they hit IRMAs much quicker than what someone would. In fact, and they're actually steeper as well. I've not memorized those numbers, and I'm sorry. We don't run into that situation very often, but it will be just your return, but your IRMA thresholds will be different. I think they start hitting IRMAs right after. I mean, it's a real steep amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing that too.
Yeah, we normally, I don't see that happen, but just want to make sure to answer your question is it will be just based upon your tax return.
Right. Yeah, it gets pretty steep pretty
Yeah,
fast.
it's called, and they have a chart for it. It's called married filing a separate return. So we have single filers, married filing a joint return, and married filing married but filing a separate return. Those are high IRMAs. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Catherine's asking, I get a monthly infusion due to a rare disease. A nurse has to administer. The visit will be covered by Part by B, but will the medication? It's about $6,000 a month.
Yeah, yeah. The answer to that is normally yes. It should be covered through Medicare Part B. And the way to verify that, Catherine, is whoever you're getting that medication from, ask them. And they'll tell you whether it's going through a drug plan or through Part B, but normally when it's professionally administered, it is through the B of Medicare.
All right, there we go. From Brian, I'm a single income home. My spouse will not qualify for Social Security, stay-at-home mom. Will she be able to collect when I pass away? If how, what percentage?
Okay, yes. Okay, so what happens, Brian, is if she doesn't have her own Social Security amount, whatever you are eligible for, or actually taking, if you're taking and pass away, or eligible for and passing away, she would be eligible for that 100% of that amount, unless she took that survivor benefit prior to her own full retirement age, which is probably 67. So if she were to wait to 67, then she would get 100% of whatever you were eligible for. Because some people, they're not even taken, they pass away. So they'll calculate it based upon what your eligibility amount would be. Okay? So my point is, if she were to take it prior to her own full retirement age, she would get a reduction in the benefit, which is right at 6% a year less. And then that is permanent. Okay?
So what would you advise that, because you don't necessarily have to wait until he passes away, obviously, for her to start taking half. I mean,
No.
So when would you think the best time that he would for Brian to have his spouse begin to start taking half?
Well, the rules today while he's still alive, she couldn't take unless he was taking anyways, because now he would have to actually file for Social Security for her to be eligible for spousal benefits.
Okay.
And so I recommend that they both wait till full retirement age, because then there's no reduction in benefit. Because the spousal reduction is actually, it's very high. It's 9.3% a year for the first 3 years, and the next 2 are 5%. So literally, when someone takes a spousal benefits at age 62 versus age 67, they lost a full 38% of their income. That's a hefty penalty.
For sure.
So if people can wait financially, I recommend that they don't take spousal until they've reached their own full retirement age. Yeah, it's just too stiff of a penalty. Now, if they need the money, take it.
Right.
But I just don't like the fact that if you don't need it, I would definitely wait and let that account grow or at least have less of a penalty.
Yeah, nearly 40%. That's
a lot.
That's a lot.
It is.
For sure.
Yeah, 9.3% for 3 years and then 5% thereafter.
Yep. All right, so it looks like we're from Jesta. Hello from Orlando. Marvin, I just want to thank you and the folks at Medicare School for the invaluable advice and guidance. I'm happy with my Advantage plan so far. Thank you.
That's great. Good.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for allowing us to serve you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our privilege.
And it looks like it says hello from Orlando. So, I mean, typically I do, in talking to people on the phone, more often than not, when I'm talking to people in New York, Connecticut, and Florida, I do typically talk more about Advantage in those states than I do in a lot of others for a lot of various reasons. Obviously, state laws and very, very, very competitive plans there for Advantage in Florida can make it mathematically, it can make sense to do Advantage in that state. I mean, those are the 3 states I personally would be considering Advantage myself, but because everybody's situation is obviously a little bit different. But yeah, it's much, much easier to talk about it in certain states and can really, really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, those competitive markets bring the max out of pocket down a lot. And plus, the networks, I think, are very large as well. So
very large,
good.
Matching in and out of network. You have some give back. A lot of the plans have to can help people that, reduce their total Medicare cost to near zero. So it's really, really good.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
There's a place for them for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, John says, is an HSA the same or different from a flexible spending account?
Yeah, definitely different. HSA stands for Health Savings Account, and that's part of the tax code that allows us to put money into this HSA, and that money goes in tax deductible. If it's a growth account, it grows tax deferred. If you use it for medical expenses, it's tax exempt. And so that's why there's certain rules about those, because those monies continue to accumulate and grow. A flexible spending account, maybe it's $2,000 a year. That is, use it or lose it. Those monies will not accumulate. So if I put aside $2,000 in my flexible spending account, I have to use that towards some medical expenses because it will not carry over into the next year. Still some tax advantages. It can be deductible, but it's not going to be an accumulating type of an account like an HSA. So they're totally different. So listen, if you take Medicare A only, you can still contribute to a flexible spending. You just can't contribute to an HSA.
All right, yeah, so Dennis has one here. Can you take spousal Social Security benefit and let your own benefit, AMT, keep increasing, and then switch and your own benefit later if it becomes greater than your spousal benefits?
Yeah, only if you were born before January 1st, 1954 is that allowable. So if you're born, well, actually, let me say it was January 2nd, 1954. So January 1, 1954 or before, that's possible. But if you're born after that, you cannot do that. That's called, we called that restricted applications, file and suspend. We used to do a lot of that. But they changed the rules, and so all those people that started again, born before January 1, 1954, they were grandfathered in. Everyone coming in after that could not do that. So that's why I was saying earlier, once you have deemed to take a Social Security benefit, you apply for Social Security, in today's system, you have to take the greatest amount that's available. So it's going to be 50% spousal, 100% of your own.
Right.
In the old days, we could take spousal in your own account group, but those days are over. Talk about hitting hard on the Social Security trust funds. That did that particular strategy. Yeah. It was free money for people. It was legal, but it was a loophole that was breaking Social Security.
Yeah. Aloha from Maui. Is there any coverage outside the states?
Okay. Well, when it comes to supplemental plans, there are 6 of the plans, C, F, G, N, and I think K and L. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, 6 of the 10 that do offer $50,000 lifetime benefit for foreign travel emergency. So outside the states, Medicare doesn't pay anything. So 6 of those 10 supplemental plans give you this $50,000 benefit, and it's lifetime. It doesn't replenish. And so if you're out of the states or out of the U.S. territories and you have a claim, the insurance company, what they do is you have to pay a deductible of $250, and they take the balance of that bill, and the insurance company pays 80%, and you pay 20%. But their 80% stops once they've spent $50,000 on you. Okay, and it doesn't refill.
Right.
Lifetime. So the answer is yes, but it's limited. In fact, I had a lady call in today, not call in, but talk to one of the ladies here, and she was getting travel in health insurance, and she asked, well, how much should I get? I recommended a $100,000 policy with a good air evacuation rider. So if I'm outside the U.S. or U.S. territories, that's what I would get. About $100,000 is good. If you have a supplemental plan, you already got an extra 50, and then get an air evacuation rider, because that's really where people usually see some steep increases. I had a lady had to fly from Costa Rica to San Diego. The flight was like $280,000. Yeah, air evacuation.
Wow.
Okay, but she had a $1 million air evacuation rider attached to her travel health insurance plan. And read this fine print, because they're not all created equal, I can assure you that. But get a good travel health insurance plan, and they're very, very reasonable.
And the 50,000 on the supplement policy is based on a Medicare allowable amount, right? Like it's based on what Medicare would charge for specific procedures. Is that correct?
Well, that's not my understanding. I don't know. It could. Anytime I've had people that I've helped with claims, it's just, well, I had a lady in Ireland, $172,000 hospital bill, and so it paid $50,000. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm not sure about the Medicare equivalency. I've not heard that. Could be true.
No, I mean,
I had a lady fall in Australia. Bill was $9,000, so she paid $250 deductible, and they split the balance 80-20. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. All right, from Lee Jones here. It says, I love my G plan that Marvin's people suggested. I paid my deductible and nothing else. So I'm getting my cataract surgery this year after my shoulder therapy because I paid my deductible for 2024.
Very good. That's great. Yeah, Lee, that's good to know. Thanks for letting us help you for sure. Once you've met that B deductible, you're done. Mm-hmm. That's why I said it's almost full coverage, not quite.
That's actually another question I had for you too, actually. So I had a client who, same kind of thing, met her deductible for Plan G. And every time she'd go to her doctor or hospital, they would still insist that she paid this copay or that copay. And she kept asking me, what should I do about this, in this situation? And that would, basically I told her, I said, well, obviously you need to stop paying your copays, first of all, and just then have them send you a bill. And then that's going to get sent over to the supplement carrier, and you shouldn't have anything left. But what would you suggest to that person?
Well, yeah, I would not pay anything beyond your B deductible. That is somebody that's in the building department that must think you have an Advantage plan, because that's why they're charging copays, or an in plan, because you would have $20 copays
Right.
on the in plan. So I could see that. So yeah, that's a billing department problem.
Yep.
And what I would do, if you're one of our clients, we would just have one of our tier 2 agents actually call into that doc's office or whoever's doing it and have that discussion. Say, there should be no billing beyond the 240.
Right.
And maybe with us on your side like that, maybe we could persuade someone to stop that, because that should definitely not happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a one-off situation. I'm like, that is not how that works.
No,
You should
not
not
at
be
all.
getting
Yeah,
anything at all.
definitely some incompetence there.
Yep. Oh, scoot on in here. Yep. So from Natalie, does G cover dental and vision?
Okay, well, let me explain it this way. When we talk about dental, if we're talking about cleanings and root canals and crowns, the answer is no. And the reason is because Medicare A and B does not cover dental unless it's real extreme cases. Someone is going in for, let's say they have end-stage renal disease and they're going to get a kidney replacement. They're going to go in and see about the health of their teeth, because that could have an impact upon their recovery and their surgery. So Medicare would cover that. People that they could have jaw cancer and there has to be some reconstruction of the jaw, which affects the teeth. Medicare would cover that, therefore your G plan as well. Okay, so there are times, limited times, when Medicare covers dental, and that's when you would see your supplemental plan also doing that. But I think what you're asking is G going to have a dental plan? The answer is no. So most people that have A and B with a G plan are going to buy a separate dental plan if they want dental coverage. And it's a true dental plan, covers you usually somewhere between about $3,000 to $5,000 a year, and it costs about $50 a month. We write those plans all day long. And so I think it's important. I think oral health has a lot to do with your overall health. So we encourage people to get a dental plan. Let me say this. The best time to get a dental plan is within 60 days, sometimes 30 days, of losing your employer coverage. Because if you set up your dental plan within 30 to 60 days of losing employer coverage, then you have no waiting periods. You're going to have wonderful coverage right out the gate. So you want to get one sooner than later. When it comes to vision, Again, Medicare covers very well on vision, covers everything except eyewear and eye exams for eyewear. Okay, so Medicare covers well. If you have cataracts, you have glaucoma, you have macular degeneration, you have some kind of an eye disease, then Medicare pays first and your G plan is going to pay, right? So the only thing that G plan would not cover would be what Medicare does not cover, which is eyewear and exams for eyewear. Everything else, great coverage.
Yeah. Yeah, and I worked in optical myself for about 15 years.
You know a lot about it. I should have let you answer that question.
No, that's absolutely right. Yeah, and I did a video recently on that whenever that comes out. But yeah, there's some stuff coming out. It's good to know, obviously, what your coverage is when it comes to those kinds of things. And yeah, so yeah, the refraction, obviously, when they're checking your prescription, Medicare doesn't cover that. If you opt for retinal photos as opposed to getting a dilation done, Medicare probably won't pay for that as well. Once again, that is deemed as election.
Yep.
You elected to have that rather than having the medically necessary parts of it. Medicare will pay for a pair of glasses after cataract surgery, but even then, it's real basic. I mean, it's really not what anybody typically wears. I mean, a $60 frame and some real basic line bifocals, that's pretty much it one time. So it's not really going to cover much in that regard, absolutely. And basic vision plans are very inexpensive. So.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can add, what, $15, something like that?
10 to 16, yeah, very, very inexpensive, and you can pick them up whenever you want. It's not like dental where you got to have that continued coverage like you were saying. You can pick it up on a dime and use it the same day. Very, very easy when it comes to vision.
That's good.
Yeah. All right, so from Valerie here, says, I am also a new client, had a wonderful experience with agent Aaron Butler. Go KCMO.
All right, good. Yeah. Aaron is a real pro, been in the business a long time.
Yeah.
So glad you had a good experience, Valerie. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Good shout out to KCMO there, too.
Yeah.
Tomorrow as the first regular season Chiefs game.
Yeah, Chiefs game. I'll be
there.
there.
Don't be deceived. I will be wearing all red tomorrow. That is a red Thursday here. So, all right, from Nanner here. I'm in Wisconsin. Since we are different than most other plans, do you have certain people who specialize in odd states?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, here's our agents right in all 50 states. So, Nanner, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Massachusetts have their own plans. They're called waiver states. And so if you call in, we write a lot of business actually in Wisconsin. And so what they offer would be G equivalents, N equivalent type plans. And so we can help you with that. So all the agents would equally be able to help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from Reggie here. If you don't get a drug plan in the first 2 months, will you be penalized?
Okay. Well, you have 63 days of losing a group plan to enroll into a prescription drug plan. So if let's say you come into Medicare after 65 because you kept working, and let's say you retire at 67, you have 63 days from when you lose the group plan to enroll into a drug plan. After that, then they will start assessing penalties, and it's 1% per month for every month you go without a drug plan. That penalty is minimal. Right now it's about 35 cents a month. So if you go without 12 months times 35 cents, that would be what, $4.20 penalty per month for life. Okay, so that's the issue. So it's not a huge penalty, but my biggest issue is the risk of not having a drug plan. That's the biggest penalty, because you cannot add a drug plan just when you want to. If we don't have a drug plan when we first go on Medicare, we can only add one during the open enrollment season, which is October 15th to December 7th. And those plans start January 1. So let's say someone doesn't enroll into a plan and they get diagnosed with cancer in February, you're not going to have coverage now until the following year. So the biggest risk of going without a drug plan is if you need an expensive medication and you cannot get a drug plan. And the reason you ought to get one right now, especially the cap next year is $2,000. So enroll in just a very low cost monthly drug plan in case you run into a health problem. You'll be glad that you had one, and then you won't be penalized. Now, I want to clarify something. If you're starting at 65, you actually have a little bit longer than that. So if my birthday, let's say it's this month, the month of September, I could enroll into a drug plan October, November. I could enroll this as late as December for a January 1 start date and not be penalized, because I have that full 7-month window, 3 months before 65, once I'm 65, and 3 months after, where I can enroll into a drug plan that starts the next month. So I can put it off until my 3rd month of my IEP, right? No penalties. But if I've been working and I'm coming in later, then I just have 63 days. So that's the way it works.
All right. Tim says, I'll be 65 in April and wanted to know if I can actually be turned down for supplemental care and forced to get an Advantage plan.
No, because everyone has what we refer to, Tim, as the Medigap OEP. OEP stands for Open Enrollment Period, and this is applicable in all 50 states. And so your birthday is in April, so your OEP, you actually can apply in most states 3 to 6 months in advance of your birth month, which is April. So you have 3 to 6 months you can apply for a supplemental plan. That supplemental plan would go into effect when you hit 65, when you start your A and B. But you still have an additional 6 months beyond April. So the way we would count that would be April, May, June, July, August, September. So you have all the way up until September of next year to enroll into a Medicare supplemental plan. And for you, that would be a G or an N, not an F. And there would be no underwriting during that period of time. So again, 6 months before you turn 65, and then 6 months after is the window where there's no underwriting. We call that your guaranteed issue right, because all states have to give you that 6 month window, okay, for a Medigap policy. And by the way, it's very important. In fact, probably one of the most important rules that apply in Medicare: don't miss the Medigap OEP. And this is one of the real heartbreak situations when people that have to go on Advantage plans go on Advantage plan. They're on it for a year, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, and they have to get off their Advantage, and they'd like to go back to original Medicare and get a supplemental plan. They can't, because they can't get through medical underwriting. They just can't. So that's really unfortunate. Now, the exception would be New York, Connecticut, Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts. But all the other states, you have to medically qualify to get off of that Advantage plan if you've been on it for a year plus.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had actually 2 individuals in the past 2 weeks. They were on supplements for quite a while. They decided this last January to go on to Advantage. And now they're calling me saying, I don't like this. I want to go back to my old plan, which one of them had Parkinson's. I can't remember the other one's situation. They were never going to qualify, medically speaking. But when they were less than a year since they got on, I said, you're going to have to contact your original carrier. They do have to take you back. It may not be at the premium that you originally had, but they will take you back. So I said, they asked, should I be doing that? I said, if you were my dad, I'd be telling you, you need to get off the phone with me and call them immediately. Get back on there and get back on your plan, because you'll never qualify after this. This is your only chance to get back. And so thankfully there are provisions in the law that do help people in that situation. But if they made any other changes from that one plan, that's it. They wouldn't have that type of opportunity again.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some decisions on Medicare can't be reversed, folks, and that's why it's important you make the right one.
Right. Absolutely. Bob there said, I had a large gain from the sale of my home in 2023, which would affect my premium in 2025. Can I appeal that?
Well, you can't appeal it based upon that, Bob. However, I don't know if you're married, but as long as you've been in the home at least 2 years of the last 5, then you should have an exemption of up to $500,000, where that income would not be taxable anyways. So now, if it's investment property, then yes, that's going to be an issue for sure. But if it was a residence, because you have that time where you're not going to be taxed on that gain, up to $500,000 for a married couple, I think it's up to $250,000 for a single. So you may not be affected by that anyways. But if you are paying an IRMA because of a sale of a home, then it's not going to be appealable. There's only 8 possible events. 8 appealable events, life-changing events, and that's death and divorce, annulment of a marriage, work stoppage, work reduction, loss of an income-producing property, which means it's destroyed, or loss of income because of a pension plan that went bankrupt. And so there's 8 of them. You can go online, you can look at all 8 reasons. Those are the only 8. It would not be the sale of a home.
All right, Christian asks, what are options if you need to move abroad for extended period? Medicare won't be usable, but still you will have to pay subscription fee till you are back to the USA. Okay.
So I will tell you all this. I'm not a pro on this. We don't have these kind of situations come up often. I do know that if you decline your Medicare, can they come back to the States and then start again without penalty, or are you still penalized? Because I really don't know. Do you know?
If you have creditable coverage outside the United States with a particular country,
Okay.
that can be deemed as credible.
Okay,
so
good.
you can come back without a penalty
Good,
in that
good.
situation, but
All right.
it needs to remain unbroken. You need to make sure you have that coverage consistently, and it has to be as good or better than Medicare, obviously. when it
Okay,
comes to
well,
that.
that's good. Well, then, so it sounds like to me, based on what he's saying, is that I think you mean subscription. I think you mean your monthly Part B premium. So if you're not going to be using your Medicare, and if they allow you to drop the Medicare Part B, that's what I would do, and then check in to make sure you know the rules when you re-enter the country. I guess what you're saying, you qualify for an SCP.
Basically.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
All right, so hey, what I do, Christian, is call your local Social Security office and verify all that just to make sure.
For sure.
Yeah, because we have people that will move abroad. They'll just keep their Medicare active. They'll just keep it open because they don't, they want to come back and they're not sure when, so they just don't want to have the hassle of losing that coverage.
Right. And people, like I talk to people too, who they're planning on moving away abroad, and they have no plans of coming back.
Okay, yeah.
No plans of coming back. Doesn't mean that they're not going to, but because you never know what's going to happen in the future. Do they say, well, do I need Medicare at that point? Well, if you do come back, you don't want to be stuck with a 5 or 10 or however long year penalty that could be exorbitant amount. So at those situations, taking advantage of an Advantage plan that has Part B give back, reducing the amount that you pay. You could bring it down to $30, $50 a month depending on what's available in your area. Obviously, you could reduce that down to paying just basically keeping just a finger in the door just in case you ever did need to come back. It's always a possibility for those people.
That's a good idea too.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, for Michelle there, I'm 75 and never applied for Social Security. When I turn 70, do they have a recourse to recover what had been entitled for the past 5 years?
Interesting.
Ooh.
I don't know that, Michelle. Call your local office, and I definitely would be applying. I've never seen a retroactive case like that. I have seen some retroactive, but I don't think I've ever seen more than 6 months or even a year. But I sure hope so, Michelle. I've just never have had that situation occur.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I know they try to really, give it to you when you turn 70. Say, please take it. But
That's
yeah, I guess
right.
if they can't get a hold of you, or there's no way to
Well,
know.
she didn't apply. Maybe
didn't apply
Didn't
and-
need the money.
Yeah.
But I definitely would be applying ASAP because I know
for
they'll
sure.
backdate some. I'm just not convinced it's going to be that long. Okay.
That would be a nice payday. She
Yeah.
got about 5 years of payments back.
I hope so. I wish I knew the answer.
That'd
to
be
that
very
one.
nice for her. All right, so yeah, from Danny there, if I go for the free, quote, Medicare welcome appointment, what does that visit entail?
Yeah. Well, basically what it is, they're gonna check your height and your weight, your blood pressure, and then they're gonna do kind of an update of your medications. It's not a physical for sure. They're not gonna do any blood work or anything like that. So it's just really an update of the medical records to make sure that your doctor is current as to your situation. So then every year you go back in for that wellness checkup. That's what they do. They just continue to update. But during that visit, if doc is concerned about something and wants to run some labs or do something, then they can order additional tests during that visit if they want to, and then those would be covered by Medicare, just not under the preventive visit. Mm-hmm. That's the way you do that. Yeah, but it's not physical for sure. It's
Right.
not like a company's plan where you got a lot of things covered during an annual physical. Medicare is not going to do that.
Right.
No.
I typically advise people too, because Medicare won't cover a yearly physical. We obviously make sure that the nuances of it being considered a wellness check is very important for those individuals. But also to make sure when your doctor's asking you questions about, hey, well, do you want to run this blood work and this and that? The question you'd ask the doctor is, what do you
Medicare
think?
cover it.
Do you think I should be running this blood work? Are you ordering this as something that is considered medically necessary? As long as you're ordering it, doctor, I think I'm fine with it. But as long as it's elective and it's on me, Medicare may not pay for that. So you want to be very careful about how you word that. And usually doctors are pretty good about that. They want to get paid, just like the rest of us, and they know how to bill Medicare properly. But sometimes doctors are really good at writing down but not realizing, paying attention to what the codes are. That just goes in the billing office, and some are better than others. So, like I said, knowing how your plan works and knowing how Medicare works can really help you out in that situation to avoid getting a bill. Medicare can to pay for it. All right, from Johnny there, it said, I live in Boston and switched from an MA to Medicare and Medigap. I wasn't required to have underwriting. If I move to a state that requires underwriting, will they still honor my present Medigap plan?
Yes, they will, Johnny, because the Medigap plan that you picked up is a lifetime. It can never be canceled by the insurance company other than non-payment of premium. So just because you relocate, you take it with you. We call those guaranteed renewable policies. They're lifetime. So wherever you move, take your Medigap with you. Now, the insurance company that has you covered does have the right to change your rate when you move. If rates are lower or late rates are higher, we've seen both, they do have the right to adjust the rate, but they can never cancel the policy because you relocated. That's one of the beauties of a MedSup plan. Someone could have their health change drastically and they move away. You take your Medicare supplemental plan with you. Truly lifetime as long as you pay that premium.
Right. Yep. Mike D says if you reach 65 but are still covered by your spouse's workplace medical plan, 20 plus employees, and she has an HSA, does that impact if I roll in Part A?
Okay, here's the way it works. As long as you continue to stay under your spouse's group plan and that spouse has an HSA, they can contribute the full amount, the full family amount, which this year is it'd be $4,150 twice. That's $8,300, which would be $9,300 as long as they're above 55. Okay, that's a mouthful. Let me say it again. So as long as you stay covered by the group plan of your spouse and they're contributing, you can still contribute up to the full family amount. Now, if you're not on that group plan, then they can still contribute to their own individual amount, which is $4,150 a year plus $1,000 catch up. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so it's all right. In other words, if I enrolled in Medicare A only and I'm covered by my spouse's plan, then we can make the full maximum contribution for a family, $8,300 plus $1,000 catch up.
Because it's seen as she's the primary.
That's
so
exactly
it
right, because
wouldn't
they
be
own it.
affecting
So yeah, so as long as they're the owner of that HSA, they can make the full family contribution. Yeah, that's the way it works.
So let's say an individual also is contributing for themselves for their own HSA, and they're say 69 years old, so well after the age. So they're part A, and they haven't done a Part A, obviously. So it's going to backdate 6 months. Can that individual, knowing here that they're going to go into Medicare here, say in January, say 3 or 4 months from now, just drop their contributions down to a certain level, or should they stop it right away entirely, knowing that it's going to backdate 6 months?
It is prorated, so they could reduce it. I think it's safer just to go ahead and stop. We know 6 months prior to applying for Medicare, you need to stop putting money into your HSA. But if you've just put the minimum amounts in, you're probably not going to overfund it. But I wouldn't take the chance. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. So you see the 800 number there. If there's anything we can do for you and help you, please call in, and we'd be delighted to serve you. We are brokers, so we serve in all 50 states. So give us a call, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.